When I heard that Amy Schumer was starring in a movie where she pretends to be pregnant for social clout, I thought, well, that's certainly an idea for a movie, isn't it? A good idea? I would argue probably not, but certainly a unique idea, which is especially important for Amy Schumer given her past, shall we say, career controversies. That being said, this movie is like scrolling through a middle-aged woman's TikTok feed for 90 minutes straight. Does that mean it's completely awful and irredeemable? No, because after all, TikTok is meant to be addictive, so you'll see some insightful, if banal, anecdotes about motherhood, some very simple jokes, and some thirst-trap TikToks featuring very average-looking men. But you don't come away from the experience feeling good about yourself, and you don't remember too much of it either. This pretty much encapsulates how I felt watching Kinda Pregnant, starring Amy Schumer as a character who fakes a pregnancy, but can't help but falling in love with the Zamboni operator. Somehow this is on Netflix's top 10. I don't know how. God save us all. The movie takes itself too seriously, which is a crazy thing to say when the narrative is featuring a woman showcasing her artificial insemination. Schumer strays away from what she is good at as a comedian, and the moments where the film tries to be romantic or dramatic really don't work at all. The characters are all underdeveloped, their narrative arcs are incredibly unsatisfying, and there are so many comedies out there that just do the basics a whole lot better. Perhaps most impressively, the 90-minute film somehow runs completely out of gas by minute 45, just like I'm going to be doing recording this video. There's only so much talking about the fake pregnancy movie that my soul can bear. Still, I want to break down the good, the bad, and the absurd, so we can find out which jokes were delivered with no complications and which bits of comedy are coming out in full breach. And if you thought that pregnancy joke was bad, well, don't worry, there's only about 20 more throughout the duration of the film. Oh, and this one vaguely racist joke about tea.
I'll have some black tea.
Oh, black tea, cool guy.
That's me, yeah. Throw some honey in my shit.
That just feels like it could nestle so neatly into a research paper about racism in mainstream white comedy. To all the future cultural anthropology majors out there, on behalf of the melanin deficient, I give you my sincerest apologies, and to everybody else, I give you my apologies that this film exists. My name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and if you enjoy my videos and my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. It is a free way to help the channel, and I super duper appreciate it. I am also on social media, usernames there, links down below in the description if that's your thing. Heart, back by popular demand. Valentine's Day heart, even though this is almost certainly coming out after that. Kinda Pregnant stars Amy Schumer, who also wrote and produced the film alongside Adam Sandler's production company, Happy Madison. It's a real roll of the dice anytime you see that production logo, let me just tell you that. And believe it or not, in the 2010s, Amy Schumer used to be a pretty mainstream comedian. More recently, though, she was in Jerry Seinfeld's movie about Pop-Tarts, so suffice it to say she is not exactly starring in adaptations of Shakespeare at this point in her career. I really haven't thought about Amy Schumer in a few years, and I'd argue what you, and probably most of you, might know her for is her widely documented joke-stealing controversy. Or I should say controversies plural, because there is a 28-minute long video of a bunch of jokes from other comedians earlier than her, followed by a bunch of jokes that she said after them. And a lot of them are very, very similar. I think the whole situation is overblown. Comedians will often joke about the same thing, and it doesn't mean necessarily that somebody is stealing from the other person, but some of the examples in the video are quite suspicious, often nearly word for word, so take it for what you will.
I'm very well read, and
You're like, Amy, wow, you're really well read.
Then again, I don't think a magician pulling a colorful scarf out of a woman's coochie is a particularly unique and groundbreaking joke that has to be protected. I think it's probably one of the first jokes you would make when you're thinking about having sex with a magician. Although, I think there might be some comedic potential in doves erupting after a gentleman finishes, let's move on, let's change the subject.
If you feel something moving down there, it's just the bird. I know it.
For better or for worse, Kinda Pregnant is kinda in the top 10 of Netflix, so a lot of people are watching the film. Or, well, you know, having it play while they're scrolling on their phone. And if you're doing that right now while you're watching this video, well, I can't stop you, but just know that you're hurting my feelings. Unless you've got me in that whole, you know, picture-in-picture type business, somehow the knowledge that I'm in your upper right corner yapping while you're going about your business is strangely comforting to me. Anyways, let's get to the movie. So we begin with a tactic that's quite common in comedies, the main characters as children doing outrageous things. Lainey, played by Amy Schumer, and Kate, played by Jillian Bell of SNL fame, are playing with dolls and are vividly recreating the pains of childbirth. We also learn that Lainey's mother died when she was 6, a fact that feels like it should be brought up more, but is mostly just occasionally brought up by Lainey to beat other characters with like it is a trauma shillelagh. The world's ultimate Uno draw 4 card is unfortunately dead parents, unless of course you're like 40.
No, if you don't have parents, you're an orphan.
Oh, you could be 70 and be an
You
orphan.
could be 100 and be an orphan.
Oh, you can't be 100 and be an orphan.
It does inform Lainey's character though, as we go to the present, where Lainey is excitedly FaceTiming Kate about how she is going to go on her 4-year anniversary dinner with her boyfriend, and she thinks that he's, of course, gonna propose. Here's a helpful tip. If you're a character in a comedy movie, your boyfriend is never going to propose. He's either cheating on you or is about to be turned into a fine red paste after being hit by a bus. And in the latter case, I fear his odds of survival are a lot less than Regina George.
Shove it right up your hairy...
Sure, I get it. Every film needs to have an inciting incident, but every development in the film's narrative can be seen coming from about a mile away. The same cannot be said about Regina George. She had no idea that her canary-colored karma was coming at such an advanced speed. After they hang up, we find out that Kate has a positive pregnancy test, which is ironic because at the start of the film, when they were kids, Kate really didn't want children and Lainey did. She was initially far more apprehensive about the idea, but now she's gotten knocked up. Sorry. That's another comedy film about pregnancy that just deals with all of this a whole lot better. We then see Lainey at her workplace. She is an English teacher and she has a student that looks exactly like Big Justice, and I really cannot get over it. Sadly, I don't know if I can give this film 5 booms. Boom, 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 boom! Is that how they do it? I feel like I messed that up. We get a truly bizarre bit here of, and I don't really know what other word to use to describe this, of Lainey semi-erotically reading Romeo and Juliet to her middle school classroom.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? Romeo?
There are a few jokes in the film that land. This is not one of them. This is a fighter jet in the San Diego harbor.
We bring the boom! That's what we do!
This is followed by Fallon, the school guidance counselor, played by Ursula Carlson, accusing a student of hitting the slopes.
Where were you? You smell like cocaine.
You eventually come to accept this type of behavior from Carlson's character, but that doesn't really mean it ever works for the film. Schumer, as I'm about to discuss, works the best when she's at her most absurd. But when you have an even bigger character with an even bigger accent, I don't really think it balances the film that well, especially because she plays kind of an important intermediary role in the interpersonal conflicts that Lainey will have with Kate and some other characters we're going to meet in a little bit. If I had a funnier, cooler, whiter, yet more accented version of me in this video, he would totally steal my thunder. Right on, Padre. Now Lainey is going to her ex-boyfriend's apartment. Hey, get the fuck out of here. At any rate, Lainey goes to her boyfriend's apartment to pick up a watch for the dinner, and she sees a dress laid out on the bed that is obviously too small for her and obviously not meant for her, but she wears it anyway. And here, I was actually going to give the movie credit for this joke because it works on kind of an absurdist level, and it works because it reveals something about Lainey's character, but then she just randomly trips down the stairs for absolutely no reason, and I got frustrated. Why? Why are you doing this? It's not funny. And I'm going to use this as a microcosm of why I didn't really enjoy this film that much, because there's going to be 2 examples of physical comedy in this sequence. One will succeed, the other will fail. Her boyfriend, played by Damon Wayans Jr. of New Girl fame, wants to, instead of proposing, open up the relationship and have a threesome with a woman that he introduces to her at the table. Lainey then causes a complete scene, freaking out, shoving cake in her mouth, and stealing food from strangers. Now, is that sequence of physical comedy going to be everybody's cup of tea? No. But the fact that it is informed by Lainey's character, it is informed by the plot, and it is informed by basic logic makes it a much better opportunity to really have the best possible chance of that physical comedy landing for the audience. We smash cut to Lainey in a depression outfit in her school classroom and just roll the tape.
It's going to be an oral exam. Assuming you're all familiar with oral.
Little perverts.
You can argue about how funny a middle school teacher talking about fellatio to their students is. I would argue not at all. But what I want to highlight here is that we're supposed to like this character. And in the first 10 minutes of the movie, I would say it's more plausible that she'll be featured on a verse of Not Like Us than she'll actually transition into becoming a genuinely likable protagonist. She keeps doubling down on the impromptu sex education and then starts a fire by burning a bunch of textbooks and then flees the school to go have dinner with Kate.
Ryan started the fire!
Anyways, if you're wondering whether or not Lainey will face any consequences for this at all, the answer is no. This will become a bit of a running theme, which, although it is not uncommon at all in comedies, completely weakens the film, cheapens the third act, and makes the stakes of the film completely pointless. No, not those stakes. Those stakes. Lainey then quickly deduces, because she's not drinking, that Kate is pregnant and offers some lovely words of encouragement.
No!
No?
No! Get rid of it!
What?
Look, your main character doesn't have to be a good person, but they generally have to be likable. And we are so far from that right now. At least for this type of movie, I'm sure you can nitpick and be like, oh, you know, the guy in Fight Club, we don't like him. This is not Fight Club. If it was, we couldn't even talk about it, so shh. And if you want advice as to how Lainey could regain some of that rootability, well, she could start by making fun of the fact that her friend is dressing like a lesbian flight attendant cowgirl, but that one is probably more on the wardrobe department than on the character. And it's about time we meet Shirley, played by Lizzie Broadway, great name, of The Boys spin-off Gen V fame. Shirley stands in for the antagonist of the film.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
But it could be better to think about the true antagonist as being our changing bodies, or peer pressure as an abstract concept. Fallon then informs us that because Shirley is also pregnant, she and Kate are going to become best friends. If there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I'm gay. I don't know why so many people speculated in the comments about that. I didn't really think it was that much of a secret. If there's a second thing you should know about me, it's that I hate this trope of the best friendship being replaced by somebody else who's new in their life because of some arbitrary reason. I really hate it. Bridesmaids is the only film I've ever seen do it remotely well, and that's just because Wig is a brilliant performer, and that's the main focus of the narrative, is this friendship, whereas here, the friendship between Kate and Lainey and the usurpation of it by Shirley is basically just a random B-plot. It pisses me off, it doesn't make any sense, and I personally don't give a rat's ass if Lainey and Kate are not best friends. Frankly, Lainey seems like a bit of an asshole. Kate has been very supportive, and Lainey just told her to flush her zygote down the Hudson River. So maybe Kate should be looking for greener pastures, but if she doesn't, I don't really care. And speaking of apathy, let's meet the love interest, Josh, played by Will Forte of SNL fame. I would give Will Forte about a 50% approval of his role as the love interest in this film, which would be pretty good for a presidential approval number, but would still constitute a failing grade in Lainey's bizarre middle school classroom.
I'm unbelievably uncomfortable right now.
They have some fun moments. They both kind of do like a mirror bit because they're both wearing depression grout fits, but then they realize that their hoodies are both from Old Navy, so we get this absolutely sauceless bit about how, oh, you know, Old Navy has nothing to do with the actual Navy. Who said it did? Who said it did? Who thinks this is funny? By the end of the film, I don't hate their romance, but I also am not exactly rooting for it either. Speaking of things I wasn't exactly rooting for, there's this joke.
I can't stop masturbating to weird stuff. Oh, like the Golden Bachelor?
You can't say that anymore, Kate. We hate Jerry, the Golden Bachelor, for being a two-faced liar and for what he did to Leslie. When he got down to the final two women he has to pick one of them to propose to, he told both of the women that he was going to propose. You just can't do that. It's just a shitty thing to do unless you're that Mormon guy from Sister Wives, and you are gonna propose to both of them. By the way, love that that guy has to have a timeline of his wives on the Wikipedia page. That's just a really fun way to live your life, isn't it? Polygamy talk aside, Lainey is helping Kate pick out maternity clothes and discovers a plastic fake pregnancy belly and decides to wear it. Just like Skywalker's lightsaber or Thor's hammer, after wearing it she immediately becomes more powerful and a random woman offers to get her a burrito. And I didn't really know that's how that worked. So, I'm waiting. There's then this truly bizarre sequence, which as far as I can tell is being presented to us as something that is actually happening in the context of the movie, where she's walking down the street and every single person on the street compliments her because she's pregnant. It's actually very similar to the opening number of Hairspray, and it is similarly ridiculous. The difference here being that while Hairspray is doing it in a way that is tongue-in-cheek and fun, and obviously it's a musical, this film is using this sequence as demonstrable evidence that our society literally does treat pregnant women better, which, you know, we're not exactly living in the ancient Nile Valley where there are multiple fertility gods that we all worship and we treat pregnant women decently. This is America. You're lucky to even get maternity leave. But you need that foundation, even if it isn't true, to justify Lainey's faux pas faux pregnancy. Bad pun machine go burr all in this video. I love it. Lainey decides to join a pregnancy yoga group complete with so much queef humor.
Inhale and pull up from the vagina. And exhale through your butthole.
She quiffed right in my face.
This scene also has a lot of physical humor, which you couldn't really get away with if Lainey was actually pregnant. Don't worry, we'll be seeing a lot more of that in roughly 90 seconds. Lainey then meets and befriends Megan, played by Brienne Howie, who is pregnant with her second child. It's at this point, though, that Lainey realizes she needs to keep up her false pregnancy to maintain this new friendship. So in essence, this film is really about how difficult it is to make friends in adulthood, so much so that you will literally go through the lengths of lying about having unprotected sex 4 to 5 months ago.
When you were pouring the Bisquick, you trying to make pancakes?
Lainey then attends Shirley's gender reveal party, obviously without the fake belly, because lying about the pregnancy to her best friend, in addition to not being believable, would be a little bit out there, but the gender reveal party does not go super well. And I should note here that Shirley's husband, played by SNL cast member Alex Moffat, was probably my favorite part of the movie in an unironic, ironic kind of way.
Looks like I got my baby girl pregnant. Whoopsie daisy.
In an unfortunate series of events, Shirley tells Lainey, hey, break open the piñata and reveal the baby's gender, your life sucks, which obviously backhanded passive aggressive, whatever. She tries to break the piñata, doesn't do a good job of it, and almost kills Fallon. And it reads like a parody of gender reveal parties, but really I think they could have gone a lot farther. I'm talking about like mass plastic waste, forest fires, plane crashes. Oh, those are all real things that real gender reveal parties have caused. Maybe reality is beyond parody at this point. Lainey then goes to visit her new pregnant friend Megan at her home, where, I shit you not, her son stabs her. It's clear that these people aren't the best parents, from drinking while pregnant in front of your husband who is apparently 10 years sober, but moreover, if you cannot prevent your son from stabbing people, I don't know if these are the types of folks who are gonna make the best of friends. It's here we learn that Josh, Lainey's meet cute from earlier, is actually Megan's brother and is currently living in their garage after a devastating breakup. They have another very sauceless romantic interaction before Lainey's fake belly is lit on fire. And I really think the only thing I can say, and perhaps the funniest thing that there is to be said about this scene, was my note that I put for this scene. I put the timestamp, and then I put in quotes, "She is on fire." No period, no capital letters. Yeah. Immediately after that scene where Lainey's fake belly was on fire, we get into a very heartfelt, emotional scene where Megan confides in Lainey about the difficulties of being pregnant in a society where actual pregnancy and actual birth, the realities of both of those, are really not talked about that much. Nothing about this scene is wrong, I say, as a man who will never be pregnant, but to me it seems like she's making some valid points. But what I will add is that your ability to say something truly emotionally resonant is somewhat undercut by the fact that just a mere 60 seconds ago, I was watching Amy Schumer's fake belly be on fire. It's like if I were to tell you all about the feelings I have when somebody tells me they accept me for being gay, that's what they say to my face, but I can tell deep down intrinsically they don't accept me, and there will always be a distance between us because of that, and that's a real feeling, and that really sucks, but would be a little bit like me saying all of that after I have just swan dived into a pool full of mayonnaise and I was spitting koopy out of my mouth. We then get into a scene which in retrospect, like most of the movie, is completely meaningless. Lainey is at a Toys R Us, didn't realize they were still a thing, I thought they all went bankrupt, with Kate, trying to be a supportive best friend, but oh no, Megan is here, and obviously Lainey doesn't have her fake pregnancy belly. So Lainey has to sneak around and outwit both of them, eventually hiding in a basket full of Beanie Babies. Remember this moment, because this film will rue the day that it doesn't really properly understand the concept of narrative stakes. Lainey then goes on another date with Josh, where we see more of his life as a Zamboni operator, which this is probably the only part of the film that I unironically enjoyed. We don't really talk enough about Zamboni operators in popular culture, and we don't really give them a lot of respect. Josh gets very mad when he sees somebody messing up the ice, digging at it with their skates, and it's like, I get mad at that too, and I don't even drive a Zambonis, and I think that's exactly how a Zamboni operator would act, so kudos to Kinda Pregnant for really nailing down the psyche of the median Zamboni operator. What a sentence that was, what a sentence. I don't really know what else a Zamboni operator would do, though, besides obviously try to eat your plants and summon a bunch of bobsled zombies. Wake up, honey, it's time for another friends falling out scene. Early on, we had a scene where Lainey gets sad because she doesn't feel like she could eat lunch with Shirley and Kate, which completely contrived, but whatever, let's move past it. Now we have a scene where Lainey is upset that Kate is bringing a doula into the delivery room instead of her because there can only be 2 people in the delivery room and she's taking her husband and the doula. And here's the problem with this. As I overanalyze the character dynamics in the direct-to-Netflix Amy Schumer movie about a woman faking her pregnancy, this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do from Kate's perspective. Sure, they're best friends, and in some ways they are family, but a doula is a trained professional that in multiple studies gives better health outcomes to pregnant women. And frankly, this perspective that Kate has of like, I have to get a doula and get rid of Lainey, that doesn't really make any sense either, because we later learn that Kate hates her husband. Why? I don't know. She just says that, and I'm inclined to take her at her word. So even from her perspective, from both of their perspectives, this conflict makes no sense and is completely contrived. That's what I hate the most about this trope. It never comes from a place of logic. In Bridesmaids, it makes sense to kind of be a little distant from Kristen Wiig's character because she's insane and crazy.
And I'm ready to party.
This conflict is because someone wants a doula. Ugh. Josh and Lainey then go on a date, this time on a party yacht, and we are running out of steam, but let's just plow through it like it was a steamboat. That's a terrible joke. See, that's evidence. We gotta keep going. Let's keep going. Let's recenter ourselves. Lainey runs into her ex with his harem. This adds nothing to the movie, by the way. But then, something that is truly bizarre, we hear the Black Mirror song. Irma Thomas's Anyone Who Knows What Love Is starts playing while Josh and Lainey dance, leading me to believe that either they're not real, they're about to die, or they're secretly in San Junipero. It is baffling to me why this decision was greenlit, especially because this film is releasing on Netflix, the platform that hosts Black Mirror. This song is one of the most recognizable songs in all of streaming media in the 21st century. Who's seen Black Mirror will instantly have a Pavlovian response to this and be taken out of the movie, even if they're enjoying it, because as soon as you hear that song, you're like, you can blame. And when I heard the song in the movie, I was like, and then there was nothing to be looking at. So I just felt silly. Lainey is then tasked with babysitting Megan's child, and then in the process learns, oh, she just wants to be a mom so bad, and oh, Josh is gonna be such a good father. The same plot that I recently watched in Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon's Four Christmases. They then have what is perhaps the most awkward sex scene in cinematic history. Will Forte kind of saves the sequence from being completely unwatchable, but it is truly one of the worst things I've seen recently in a film, and I've watched Emilia Perez, so it was not great. Amy Schumer riding him while he's wearing oven mitts and a weird face mask. It's just It's a lot. I recently watched Nosferatu, and Lily Rose Depp orgasming while a vampire is mounting her and sucking her blood was somehow more pleasant to watch than this. There's then, this is the second time, a scene where Lainey is about to tell her secret to Josh, but then chickens out at the last moment. This film is more irritating to me in some of the scenes it chooses to include than the keratosis pilaris that has been on my arms for 15 fucking years. Fallon, the South African firecracker, outlines to Lainey that she is completely screwed unless she wants to fabricate a miscarriage. And hold on, my girl might be cooking with that suggestion, as she is completely covered by terrible CGI butterflies. Seriously, that doesn't look good. Shirley, though, was listening to their entire conversation, and Lainey's secret has been exposed, so she relays the entire thing to Kate, who then later confronts Lainey in a kind of roundabout way where she's not actually confronting her. She's like, hey, you got anything you want to tell me? And Lainey's like, no, not really. And so Kate's attempts to solicit the truth were completely rebuffed. It's then time for Shirley and Kate's baby shower, and we get a brief bit about how Fallon is drinking alpaca semen. Yeah, before we then learn that, oh no, Josh and Megan have both been invited to the baby shower, and now Lainey is in an awkward position because she doesn't have her bump. What's she gonna do? She gets a replacement out of some food and then quickly has to think on her feet, and at one point turns away from Kate and tries to hide the belly like she's John Wick in that one scene, which is just completely ridiculous. Newsflash, a silencer does not make your gun completely silent. I know it's in the name, but that's not how they actually work. People would notice in this scene, but it is a great scene, and I love John Wick, so, you know. You're forgiven, kind of pregnant, you're not. Lainey then comes clean to everybody, tells everyone that she's been lying about being pregnant, and then the turkey that has been in her belly falls out of her dress, and the gig is up. And Will Forte here as Josh makes a face here that almost justifies the cancellation of Coyote versus Acme, although in fairness, how are you supposed to react when your girlfriend lies about being pregnant and a turkey falls out of her dress? I don't know. And then again, fuck you, David Zaslav, for deleting a movie, literally deleting a movie that hundreds of people worked on so you could get a tax credit. There is nothing in the world that will ever justify that decision. The only thing worse than a bad movie is whatever the fuck that was deleting a movie for a tax credit. Because, listen, let's just face it, there are people who enjoyed this movie. A lot of people didn't. More people probably did. Fewer people than those who didn't, but still, there is value in seeing a movie, even in seeing a bad movie. And deleting Coyote vs. Acme is indefensible creatively, and it pisses me off so much. Okay, recentering ourselves, back to Kind of Pregnant. Now here's my biggest problem with the film. Basically none of what we've watched in the last 80 minutes has mattered. In the next scene after this, Kate forgives Lainey because I hate my husband and you're my best friend. Of course I'm not going to stay mad at you. The next scene after that, Megan forgives Lainey because, well, you know, we're friends and I understand that even a fake pregnancy could drive someone a little bananas. The next scene after that, Josh doesn't forgive Lainey, but eventually in the final scene of the movie, he forgives her and they get back together. The whole point of the movie, will Lainey be successful in faking to be pregnant? Will she get away with faking to be pregnant? Will she face any consequences for faking to be pregnant? All of those things are rendered completely irrelevant in the final minutes of the film. Frankly, she doesn't even learn a whole lot after doing this either. I would argue she doesn't even really experience that much character growth at all. And moreover, Lainey will face no consequences for any of her actions in the movie, least of all faking her pregnancy. So the entire movie is just pointless. In a spiritual callback to the 1989 movie, Say Anything, Josh returns on his Zamboni, blasting the song Take a Chance on Me. And in this last scene, the filmmakers know how to appeal to me specifically because they don't use the original song, they use the AWOL Nation cover from the album they did of just covers, which isn't even my favorite album they've done, but because none of you asked, I will list my favorite songs from that album in order. Obviously, you gotta go with Winds of Change, Maniac, Beds Are Burning, Flagpole Sitta, and I'm now realizing that the movie probably picked one of the worst songs from that album for this scene. Nuts. And maybe this is my ignorance, but I didn't even realize Zambonis could drive on the road. Anyway, as they drive into the sunset on the Zamboni very romantically, the Zamboni just destroys an entire city block, cars, an outdoor dining setup, and I honestly really enjoyed that. What can I say? At the end of the day, I am a simple man. I love a little bit of devastation in my movies, especially for comedic purposes. But that's your movie. That's the end. It was, in a word, meh. There are some jokes that I liked. I've just named one of about the 5 I had in mind coming into this review. I also think if you're a woman who's experienced childbirth, maybe you would get more from this film than the average viewer. Then again, one of the women in my life did describe this film as, quote, one of the worst movies I've ever seen, so your mileage may vary. I try not to use hyperbole in these videos more so than I have to, so I really wouldn't go quite that far. But don't mistake my mercy for an endorsement, because it is certainly not good. It's a bad comedy, and at the root of that bad comedy are bad characters who don't really change that much and aren't really even that logical. It somehow manages to make 90 minutes, objectively the best length for the average movie, into a chore, which is again almost impressive. These bad streaming movies are becoming less and less justifiable when you realize you can basically watch at this point with digital access almost any movie your little heart desires. I'd recommend I'm Still Here, a sleeper pick for one of my favorite Best Picture films that I've watched so far. It is a truly beautiful, brilliant, and moving film. No pregnancy jokes in it though, I'm afraid. Just a depiction of a brutal, reactionary Brazilian dictatorship in the 1970s. But that's gonna do it for me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like, please comment. It helps this channel out so much, and consider subscribing. But let me know, have you guys watched this movie? What do you think? What do you think about Amy Schumer as a comedian? Is this a return to force for her? Is this her comeback? Does she not even need a comeback? Has she always been back? But yeah, let me know what you think about the movie, if you're gonna watch it, whatnot. And as always, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat, and I'll see you for the next one.